Some people may refer to Tom O'Keefe, my guest in the last episode and today, as Boston Tweet or a marathon runner or maybe an app developer or a startup consultant. But I know his real title, nonprofit social impact organizational entrepreneur. Tom has a knack for finding the gaps in the Boston community and setting the standard high for a collectivist community response to making things better that just aren't acceptable. Whether it's restaurants, bars, and small businesses threatened due to the economic crisis of 2008, the inequity and lack of diversity and inclusion in running competitive races where the entry fees are hefty, or what he says is a simple task of providing grocery gift cards to those less fortunate that began as a response to COVID-19 and will continue. So what's next for Tom? Welcome to Small and Gutsy, a podcast featuring interviews with nonprofit and social impact organizations under $10 million. My name is Laura Witkoff, and I'm excited and proud to be your host. My hope is that you love the stories as much as we do, and perhaps you will find needed services, a job, volunteer, invest in, or donate. Feel free to pass along any valuable information you hear today to others, and remember to send me the name of any organization you'd like featured at reachus@theintrinsicgroup.com. Impact Video Group, a social impact video production company that ideates, creates, and films social impact campaigns that have a positive impact on people, planet, and community, is Tom's and his business partner and longtime friend, Georgie Cruz's latest endeavor. This doesn't mean that Tom will stop stride for stride or heart to cart, but it does mean that certain subjects will be highlighted in more depth to bring greater awareness to needs, inequities, and hopefully bring about a community response to address social issues that ultimately impact all of us. By the way, Georgie Cruz is well known in his own right. He's known for his human interest documentaries that elevate people by highlighting their essence through honesty, vulnerability, courage, and transparency. His most recent accomplishment, Jack and Yaya, a beautiful story of a long-lasting friendship that truly fills the soul, will air soon. And he's also the director of Funny Pains, a deeply touching look at the journey of comedians. As Tom shared in our last episode, a U2 famous lyric, "Are you tough enough to be kind?" I think Tom is pretty tough, and I'm guessing Georgie is too. I am so excited to bring Tom back and to introduce Jorgy Cruz to explore the passion behind Impact Video Group. And since it's very new, my listeners will be the first to find out just how impactful it will be. And it falls into the category of social impact organizations. So let's get started. Welcome, Tom and Georgie. Share with us your passion and how you came to create this and join forces.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for having me again. I'll kind of let Georgie get more on the video side, but, as you know me from my social impact work on the other side, there's a lot that I was doing in Boston Tweet, but none of it was being recorded beyond the right now. So Georgie and I go back a handful of years. I don't know how, Georgie probably touched on this, how we actually came up with the idea of merging us two together. We got together in a park with masks on and, it just sort of came to us. There was so much more that video can do to highlight a lot of the positive that's being done in our city, but not just in Boston, throughout the country, and but also a lot of negatives. We've touched on some pretty sensitive topics in our first handful of videos. So that's how we kind of merged, and there's no other better video guy than Georgie. And so it just came to be. We scribbled some notes down, and Georgie's like, "This is it." And we started running.
What a wonderful concept. Georgie, share with us sort of your deep commitment to this effort.
I was born in the Dominican Republic, and I'm no stranger to seeing people struggle, seeing poverty every day. And I was lucky enough to have parents, which both doctors, devoted a lot of their time for free to help others, and they took us along. I mean, I have memories when I was 4 or 5 years old, just watching them help people and teaching me how to help people. So it's been a huge part of my life. I'm a martial artist too, and I've taught martial arts to abused women in the past. And so all of these causes, the more humane they are, the more they're close to me. And when I moved to Boston a few years ago, I went on Twitter and I went on search and I put Boston, and Boston Tweet comes up with a guy with a picture like this.
Our listeners can't see it, but head is turned to the side And there's probably a great story on that one too.
I will forever be stuck in 31 years old in that photo.
Hey, Tom, things could be worse. I think it's great. Exactly. All right. So, Georgie, go on. Yeah.
And I saw that he was sharing a lot of cool stuff. I was new to the city, but I noticed right away that he was sharing about social stuff and how to support local businesses. And I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. I remember I sent them a DM back then. I was like, hey, this is really cool. We spoke throughout the years, and then we started talking a while back about some ideas with video. But at the end, they always kind of leaned to the way of what he was doing with Heart to Cart, Stride for Stride, helping people and helping a lot of Latino people, which touched me, of course, deeply. I was eager to work with Tom. I don't know why, I thought that we could be a good team always. And the more I think about it, we have something in common, which is honesty. We really care about this. We're not trying to, be the protagonist when we do something. When I do something, when he does something, and now that we're together, it's just like, okay, let's do this together, and let's take this force, this power that video has now, and turn it into good. I was not wrong. We make a great team. As Tom said, we sat down, we spoke about what we could do. 2 days later, he's like, hey, I have a website. I was like, okay, I'll make the logo, I'll make the intro, I'll make this and that. And we, came out with a bang.
Key word that I want to capitalize, although you said so much, is honesty and integrity. I had the great privilege of watching Funny Pains, and I'm looking forward to Jack and Yaya. I saw the preview for it, and I am so moved by the level of honesty and transparency. And so I knew the genuineness at which you approach both the nonprofit and the for-profit aspects of what you're trying to do is really beautiful, because it is about being honest. You're really looking for elevating through film so that folks really understand how impactful serious situations can be for people and how maybe we can offer help.
Yeah, it's. I think we've been contaminated by reality TV too much in every aspect of our lives. Mm-hmm. Documentaries, if you see something on Netflix, sometimes it just doesn't feel honest. It feels very produced, very polished. It loses the soul of it. So that's what I try to do with Funny Pains and with Jack and Yaya, and like injecting that honesty into the videos Tom and I are creating. There's no smoke and mirrors. There's no special effects. This is real life. It's the human experience as close as you can get it with a video.
Yeah, I think it's just great. So share with me some of the topics you've covered. Start with that, I think.
We just launched in February or March, so it was pretty early. We originally touched with Heart to Cart, probably 75% of them went to Chelsea Collaborative, La Collaborativa in Chelsea, Mass. Chelsea, Mass is a community hit hardest by COVID-19 in the Boston area, Massachusetts. And it's a huge Latino population. I think it's 80%, 90%, somewhere around there, Georgie. So most of the cards went to this incredible woman, Gladys Vega, who turned around this local community center into this food bank and delivering 11,000 meals a week. And I mean, Gladys Vega was our topic. The first three or four videos, we're publishing one out now, and just about all that she's done, but also about the inequity. For example, the U.S. COVID relief bill, Chelsea got $11 million. A town in Boston called Newton, Mass. got $68 million. Chelsea's an immigrant population. Newton, Mass. is a very well-to-do white community. So there was a ton of inequity that we wanted to highlight. There was vaccine inequity, and we highlighted the fear of a lot of Latinos getting the vaccine or just not doing so. Even in Chelsea, where the numbers, more white residents are getting them, even though there's so few are there. So we touched upon that. We met a good friend of mine, John Pepper, owns a restaurant chain in here called Boloco. He has about half a dozen, and he's a huge proponent of basically treating his employees the way they should be. He's basically a human company. He just happens to sell burritos. It's all about giving his employees a good life, a good income, and not having to work multiple jobs. And during the pandemic earlier this year, he raised everyone's salary to at least $15 an hour. Most people earn more than that. And I think that's one of my favorite videos, the video of John doing, just talking extremely honestly about raising that wage, how similar companies like Chipotle really need to step up the game and have less profit. So
I saw that one actually. I loved it, and I like Boloco anyway. I think the food is delicious. So it's not just that he's.
oh, great! You bet.
Yeah, many times when I lived in Boston, I wish they were nationwide at this point. Yeah, Pavel's putting his thumb up. He's done it. He's gone there too. I love them. But I actually, what I appreciated about that particular video is that his whole orientation is supporting his employees. And I like that belief system. And there are a couple other restaurateurs, entrepreneurs who have done the same. Danny Meyer setting the table is a huge one in New York who's created.
Shake Shack guy, right?
Yeah, he's done amazing stuff with that same orientation. So I love that you captured that in a small local place where people were hit really, really hard with COVID. And a lot of owners had a very different response. Laid off people,
John speaks very highly of Danny Myers. They're actually buddies, and I know he looks up to him. But Boloco almost went out of business last year. I mean, they struggled, and they're still struggling. It's a really challenging market with all the competitors. But Pepper is a great guy. We actually filmed that video in 20 minutes, I think. A couple of those, I've known John for years. He opens up, I feel, to me, and we became friends off a tweet that we both sent in early 2008. But yeah, those are one of my favorites of so far that we've done.
Any that you hope to do, any subject matters you hope to cover?
We have a lot of subjects, a lot of stuff that we always talk about of what we want to do. Hopefully we want to gather enough eyes watching our videos and people interested in doing something about it. We started with the first video and we had a couple of hundred views, and then it started to escalate, and we're getting up there. Definitely, we want to touch on also on a lot of inequity. We were recently discussing about how a CEO makes how much, Tom?
I forget. I haven't done too much research, but just the gap between the rich and the poor has just grown even greater last year. Not that it wasn't big before then, and just how much a CEO at most companies make and how much the employees make. And that's why it kind of builds upon John. John is a restaurant industry, but it goes into huge pharmaceuticals and tech companies that just disparity is overwhelming. That's certainly one we need to dig into deeper and get more of. Pretty passionate about transportation equity, and that's something that we've been trying to get some interviews with some Boston mayoral candidates and other leaders in transportation field. For example, in Massachusetts, the cost of a bus ticket over the last 20 years has gone up 300% in Massachusetts. The cost of the gas tax has gone up 3 pennies, 3 cents over that same period. And the buses in Boston serve most of the poor communities that we've discussed in the last 2 episodes. And so and those who are driving to work, those who can afford to park in the city of Boston and drive to work, and those who have a car, have a little more money, and it's a totally different group of people, and they've only paid 3 cents more for a gas tax, so there's been a lot of discussion of making the bus lines free, increase gas tax, but it's a very hot topic. People are very defensive about raising that gas tax, but when it comes to just keep raising the MBTA fares, they just keep going up, and I think there's discussions of that now, and that strongly impacts lower income communities, people of color. We had the privilege of being able to work from home over this last year, but the people in Chelsea that we've talked to, the ones who were lucky enough to still have their job, did not have that privilege. They still had to get on a bus that was still overcrowded and travel about 10 miles or so from Chelsea to Boston, Massachusetts.
Share with me your process.
It has flowed by itself, the process, because usually when Tom brings up something, we're paying attention to the same stuff usually. So we both read on it, and once we get to the interview, I rarely discuss with Tom what he's gonna ask, but I know what he's gonna ask because we talked about it before. When I met Tom, I always noted. I told him one time, like, you seem like a host, like a A&E or History Channel kind of host, because he sits down to talk to people and he looks people in the eye. And people open up to him. They're not scared. They're not nervous. That makes it beautiful for me when it comes to video, because I get all the information that I want. And this first videos, we've all shot them with only one camera, for example. I'm used to shooting with two cameras at least. The conversation flows in a way that I move the camera and I get different angles, which works great for the editing. I don't coordinate that with Tom at all either. It just, everything has been flowing from the start. Just, you do what you do, I do what I do, and we put it together and it works. It's all about the video. It's all about the message. It's all what we can accomplish and the people that we want to reach. It's not about us. We're not ego-driven people. We're not greedy. We're not, I did this, I did that. We want to get the attention of people. Using video, high-quality video as a tool for social change, I think it's huge.
Some of these topics, we're not going for, huge viral videos because some of these topics are touchy topics. They're sensitive, and a lot of people really just want to ignore them. And so, I feel, right now we're at if we can get 10 people to see it or 100 people see the video, we're not looking for millions if they can change their thoughts about Chelsea or help donate to the collaborative. Just if we can start changing a few people's minds, and I feel we're pretty happy about that. Regarding topics, Boston Tweet, I try to stay up on all the news in Boston, and I've been doing Boston Tweet now for 13 years, which is a teenager, rambunctious teenager. So I'm staying up on the topics. I know what has been really hot subjects over the years and what people are interested in. And, with that, I'm able to really dig into kind of the pulse of Boston and see where you talk about it. Pretty well known for hiding stuff in the city and tweeting it out and people finding it, whether it's like Red Sox tickets or money or Patriots tickets or burritos, hiding over the years. And in November, during the pandemic, a local company called Pastine, which is pasta sauces, they're on your shelves nationally, approached me to do sort of a campaign. I was like, well, we can't do the typical one because it's pandemic. What we did is created sort of small food packages with pasta and sauces, and I left them in little free libraries throughout the city. Put them in about 24 libraries. It was terrific. It was really good. And I think it was great for Pastine, but it was also, it was there for people to grab if they needed a quick meal. But my biggest regret looking back was like, man, we didn't get this on video. I took some videos for stories at the moment, but nothing good, nothing like a Georgie quality video. And, looking back, I was like, I wish we really had IVG at that point. We could have really created this amazing documentary. So that's part of the thought of, getting a little bit down on video, what, I've done in the past, and help brands that are doing good, give them a voice. It's not all just about charities. There are a lot of companies that are doing amazing work, and to help to give them a voice and show what they're doing. And, last fall, Pastine, we did that. We delivered 2,000 pounds worth of food to the collaborative that I mentioned earlier. So, there's been a lot of people that have stepped up. So
I actually really appreciate what you said about your following, that if you can, I'm a believer that if I can get one person to shift their thinking and to do something, take action, I think I've done a world of good. And so I think you have a similar mindset, that you're putting it out there in order to raise awareness in the hopes that folks will step up and do what we collectively believe is the right thing as a society. Yeah,
if we can change one person's mind or a couple of people's mind, and then I think it's been a success, and you never know what they do from there. And that's kind of Boston Tweet's been able to touch on that, and also to kind of get in. I've been doing it for so long that I can send people a private message for that account and get their attention, and also get the pulse of, it's actually 300,000 people in the city of Boston.
Sorry. Oh boy, I'm glad you corrected that.
Just a humble brag that I'm throwing out there.
Great. But I didn't know.
But it's a good vehicle to get the pulse of what the city is thinking,
sure.
and what really is spiking interest, and other stuff falls dead flat. It's not this powerful tool that you can just push anything on anyone. But it's a great tool to make those connections, and I think build trust. I've been doing that for so many years, and
yeah, you give reliable information and you're responsive. And in some ways, I wish this could be a model for other cities to do something similar, because you've really I think even from the inception in some way, did it for good. And you're continuing to do it for good. And now this is a perfect example in a for-profit, small impact organization of doing it for good. And I wish more organizations.
The early days of Boston Tweet, there was like talk of expanding. I would never even consider doing it now. But in the early days there was. But the issue was, I'm not in those cities. The thing that that made Boston Tweet work is that it was authentic. It was me actually, I hustled a lot in those days, and there's no way I can do that anymore. But being everywhere at all times, I was physically in those locations. And if I was trying to do an LA tweet or a Chicago tweet, there's no way. I don't know the pulse of the city. I don't know what the city is thinking. And it's also, I think I mentioned this last time, it's a horrendous business model.
I'm just wondering if someone could replicate even if it's a bad business model, because the honesty and the integrity and what makes it work is your genuineness collectively, both you and certainly you, Tom, as Boston Tweet. And I just think it would be great in other cities to do it with that level of integrity and create a following that then you do good within that city. And I don't know if it exists. It might exist, but I think you guys are good role models for doing good work. So I want to go back to the question a little bit. So you started to talk about your processes. Boston Tweet gives you sort of a frame. You have a pulse, you have a sense, you both kind of are in the know of what's going on in the city. It's Boston centric. How does it flow? What happens and how do you then get an interview and go out and do it?
Boston has a lot of things going on. It's a great city and we love it. But like any city, it has its issues. And the cool thing is that Tom has been here since forever. I've been here for like 7 years. Been here like, 30 years already?
It's actually going on 3,000 years.
I love it.
So he knows a lot of people that we're interested in talking to that can actually, make change here, or a future mayor, or someone that's involved with like Gladys Vega and La Colaborativa. So the access to those people, Tom has a direct channel to them. And of course, with his Twitter account, he can send a DM to someone and be like, oh, this guy is sending me, has a lot of followers, whatever, if they don't know him. If it was just me, it would have been way more difficult to get people to sit down and talk to me. As he mentioned, John Pepper, the co-founder of Boloco and owner of Boloco, I was a fan of Boloco. I was a fan of how I felt every time I went there. People are so nice. The music was great. Always, I noticed the music and the people were just energetic, and it didn't seem like you want some fries with that. It wasn't that energy. It was more like, hey, how are you? How you doing? I saw one day someone go to pay and they didn't have their wallet. And the cashier was just like, don't worry, you'll be back. I know. And the guy came back. And I reached out to Tom and I was like, I want to do like a mini documentary of this company. And he opened the door. That was kind of the first unofficial time that we worked together. And then you meet a person like John Pepper and you get inspired and you see that things are possible. If more CEOs can be that way, what a world we can have, what a country. And I started to think about the look and the feel and the colors and how the framing is going to go and the editing, the pacing, the music that we're going to use, all that stuff. I handle all of that. And then I send it to him. He checks it out. That's kind of our process for now.
I get a total vibe that you guys are having fun, that you're highlighting really big issues that are super important. You want to create social change, but you're having fun doing this. Do I have that right?
Oh, totally. I think we both enjoy each other's time and respect each other. And, Georgie gave me, for drinks before the pandemic, a Led Zeppelin album. So how can you not love him for doing that? And he gave me one of my favorite U2 albums on LP. So I'm like, oh my God, this guy knows how to get me in and win my heart. So
how often do you want to release these? What's your ideal once you get into the flow? I know it's new. It started in February.
I really don't like the word content, but you need to provide a lot of content for people. So, with Gladys and La Colaborativa, we have like 3 videos out, I think, or 4, and we're going to have a 5th one or another one coming out. Shooting with one person or one company or one subject needs to happen in 5, 6, 7 short videos. Because in one of those, you're gonna get that person, you're gonna get that view, you're gonna get that engagement. If you post only one, it's not happening. So I think the rhythm we should have is per project, per subject. We can provide a number of videos in order to get people interested. We also do the stories, we do the preview. We go on Twitter, on Instagram. We use our personal accounts as well. Like, we're hustling there to get people's eyes. But I think if monthly we can do at least 1 or 2 subjects, so we're talking about, 8 videos a month, 6 videos a month, that's a good rhythm to go to. And there's endless subjects that we can tackle on.
Boston, you're familiar, both of you guys are familiar with Newbury Street. over the last few years had an open Newbury. I think it was 3 or 4 Sundays in the summer. They would have it just for pedestrians only. And it was amazing. I mean, it was just packed with people. It was this lively event. And it is so amazing when you take all these cars from a city, from a street like Newbury Street, where the cars aren't needed. It's really just sort of cruising, showing off your fancy car. It's not a thoroughway by any means. So this really increased over the pandemic because restaurants really couldn't feed people inside for safety reasons. So a lot of restaurants expanded to the streets. Hanover Street in the North End is another great example. And so there's a big push now to keep these sidewalks in the streets for pedestrians, to have restaurants being able to dine on the streets, not just the sidewalks, but actually where cars are supposed to park. So next week, we're talking to a guy who is a huge proponent of, a huge advocate of making streets for pedestrians. It was usually about 600 people a quarter every 3 months in the city of Boston would be hit by an automobile, a pedestrian walking. You know, it has become a very unsafe place to walk around. You have so many cars, you have people that are extremely distracted. You know, so there's this huge push, which I'm a huge advocate for, of pedestrian safety, running safety, cycling safety, increasing the number of bike lanes. And it's really amazing the pushback that you do get regarding Boston Tweet. It's probably some of the hottest topics I talk about. And I sort of equate it to like kind of the national guns issue. You know, there's people like, don't you ever consider taking away my guns? And there's people in the city like, don't you ever limit the size of the street for bicyclists. Better for the environment, better for the individual cycling. It's also, you know, I think it looks better, a dozen bikes than, you know, a dozen cars backed up. So we're talking about that next week, and what the city of Boston has done right with that, and more importantly, what they have done wrong, and what I personally feel they've really kind of missed the ball last year and not implementing this more when they had the chance to, when the streets were pretty clear and not really opening up. There's restaurants that are struggling that need another year or two of just incredible business to catch up from what they've lost. And why are we wasting, you know, a space that could be for dining for 2 or 3 cars? Let's just give them a chance.
I miss a lot of things about Boston being in LA, and Pavel and I kind of joke about this all the time, but I love the idea of good public transportation. If you live in a city like Los Angeles, that is really hard to come by. They're trying to do something about it, but it's spread out. It's just much, much, much harder. And so to appreciate the fact that you don't need a car to be in Boston, you really don't, is an incredible asset. And so to capitalize on that is a great force of where you're going with the concept of transportation, as well as what you said before, which is those folks who need to utilize public transportation should not be penalized for it in a far excessive way compared to those who are driving.
And you know, that is the best thing about Boston. I didn't have a car for 12 years. My wife and I bought one last year just because we were going crazy during the pandemic and we needed to get out. But I never needed it for 12 years. I'm a huge cyclist and runner, and you know, it's the beautiful thing. And that's why I love when I'm in LA, being in Venice and Santa Monica, and being able to walk everywhere around it, you know, and then trying to go up to the Hollywood Hills. I'm like, no way, I'll take 5 hours to get up there. So
yes, it will. Right. It's true. So those are some of the topics that you're leaning toward. Is there any topic that you feel you wouldn't necessarily cover? I don't know if that's a fair question.
Tom was having conversations with someone that's running for mayor this year in Boston. And I'm curious about that. I'm curious about sitting down with a politician. At the end of the day, they're politicians. They have to play a role. I'm curious about that. If, you know, someone sitting down with us, giving us politicians' answers and how we would go around that type of thing. And how could Tom get in there asking the hard questions, I guess, or something. I'm looking forward to that, to talking to people like that, because you know, if you give me the same answer you're going to give CNN, we're going to keep digging, see, like, give us the honest, you know.
Yeah, well, that's true. I didn't think of the politician answer. What I love about this hopefully topic is it's all about transportation equity. It's all about giving low-income communities better access to transportation. And I'm a huge believer in what she's trying to accomplish. And so hopefully we can honestly and authentically talk about that, and you know, just every evening the playing field. And something we talked with Chelsea Collaborative, like the city of Boston and most cities would never be able to survive without people from Chelsea, immigrant community here in Boston. And, I don't know why we're making it harder for them to come in and than it needs to be. And, they're already struggling in so many other ways. So.
Yeah, it's such a great point. And I'm guessing, and this may not be true, but because you've already done a few videos, but I think once people start talking to you, because you're so genuine, you both approach this with such a level of honesty that they may forget that they're being recorded or taped just because they get into the conversation.
Yeah, well, Georgie wears his invisible cloak, so you don't even know he's there. He's like Harry Potter. He's just sort of sneaking around Hogwarts.
I love it. Small and Gutsy is sponsored by the Intrinsic Group, my boutique management consulting firm specializing in guiding organizations to leverage talent, optimize processes, and to ensure the organization's narrative is aligned with their culture. We'd love to invite you to be a sponsor. So if you're interested in sponsoring Small and Gutsy to keep it going, please reach out to me at reachus@theintrinsicgroup.com. So as you both know, toward the end of the podcast, I do get to ask you my round of quick, gutsy questions, and they don't have to be quick. What is the top of your wish list? But the answer can't be huge amounts of money, funding,
Well, for me, is involving people, growing IBG to the point where people reach out to us and tell us, hey, this is going on. We need your help to shine a light because you have a huge following and things happened when you produce a video, when you shoot a video for a topic. I want in the future people sending us videos too, being part of IBG without being part of it necessarily, just helping shine a light on a lot of things that need attention. To me, that would be great. I think the power of video is just going to keep growing and growing and growing. Well,
the wish list, it's more of a topic. I really would like to dig in a lot more into, and we started this with John Pepper, income inequality and more on a corporate level and just the extreme difference in CEO pay and your average workers. It's unbelievable inequity and the gap is just widening. That's something that I'm really passionate about. I would love to dig into that more and really stir stuff up, I would hope, and just bring it to light. And I know there's tons of big media bringing it to light, so it's not a topic that hasn't been touched, but to go deeper into and really how it affects how someone that's making 30, 40 grand a year thinks of his CEO who's making 20 million a year. And it's just I personally don't see how you could be the head of a company where people are struggling underneath it. I don't get it. And that's a beautiful thing about John when he was talking. He's like, I've come to a level where I'm able to support financially independent for myself. So why do I need to keep adding on just to have more numbers in the bank account? And instead of me keeping it, give it to the people that work for me. And that's why he's had, people that work for him for 20 years. And so that's where I would like to dig into.
I love that. And I think that, as you said before, even if big media is covering it, you're going to cover it in a different way. It sounds like, and you're also going to cover it locally. Like that's your effort, is to really think about that on a local level, but to expose it and to get people to really start thinking differently, which is beautiful. If you were to think of a song that describes Impact Video Group, what would it be?
Oh, no.
You're both music lovers, so this is fun for me.
Kind of what has been getting me. I've been, thanks to George, I've been listening to a lot of Kamasi Washington, who's this incredible, thumbs up, Fabello, this incredible jazz musician. And Georgie's a lot into sort of the jazz greats like Miles and John Coltrane. But the Epic, is that a song, Georgie?
The album.
What's the first song off that album?
Change of the Guard.
Anything by him really sort of gets me fired up. But I listen to a lot of his jazz while running because it's just so fast. And I think it inspires me, gets me going. To be honest, a song that in many years over the past, Radiohead, Where You End and I Begin, is a song that I've listened to 3-4 hours straight while taking notes and brainstorming. It's just this deep, intense song that inspires me to be creative and just come up with ideas. And I'm finding Kamasi Washington is doing that for me too.
For me, it's a song called Ghost from The Head and the Heart, from their first album. and it touches on mortality, and that someday we're all going to be gone, you know. And I think a lot about that a lot. You know, we're going to be gone. What do you do? Make money and drink beer and eat pizza? What else? I think about that way too much, and I'm very grateful that we're doing this. That Tom and I are doing this because of that. That song, "The Ghost" by The Head and the Heart.
I love it because it really speaks to the legacy of what you're trying to create, but also the commitment of we're here for a finite period of time. And so what is our gift and how are we sharing that? And that's what it should be. It's the difference between an individualist view and a collectivist view. What makes Impact Video Group gutsy? Because it's definitely gutsy.
Well, I just think we're touching on topics that, you know, in Chelsea, we're talking about immigrant communities that are being left behind, whether it's for vaccines, whether it's for being laid off. And, you know, it takes some guts to stand up for them and show everyone else what is going on in these equities. And you should care. These are human beings, especially, you know, with me, the immigrant community, previous administration, they've had a really challenging time, and it was really embarrassing to be in a country where they were treating immigrants in this way. And, you know, Stride for Stride does that, to take a stand for them and to show them just on the running scale that you are as good as anyone else in that race. I think it's really important to show the light on people that don't have that voice on their own.
It's gutsy for me because, you know, what are the odds that this like North American and Latin American guy meet in Boston and feel the same way about the social issues, that they want to create some type of change and awareness? They're pretty honest about it. And I can say, like, when it comes to IBG, we're both pretty fearless. We're not scared. We're not being pretty cautious. We know what we want to go to and what we want to share with people. To me, it's very gutsy to meet someone from here, from this country, that cares so much about my Latino community. After these 4 years that we went through, it was devastating. It was devastating. And to me, as a Latino male, it was horrible. It was horrible. That mix that we have, I think it makes it pretty gutsy.
Yeah, I do too. I also love the word they use, fearless. You too are fearless. You're going to go in, you're going to dig, you're going to find out, you're going to share so that it raises awareness so that others can participate, hopefully in a positive way, and have the impact that you want. I love that. What is something that outsiders or maybe even insiders don't know about Impact Video Group?
There's a lot they don't know about us.
Georgie has one of his biggest, most important video documentaries coming up in June, which I know is be the most groundbreaking thing he's ever done in his life. So I'm very excited for that. It doesn't fall into the social impact side of things. It's bigger than Yaya, and it's bigger than Funny Pains. So he's going to be recording my wedding.
Yes, that could have a social impact. Who knows what the two of you could do together.
He told me, he's like, I'm going to create a movie. I'm going to interview you. I was like, I'm not doing a typical wedding crap. And my wife and I were like, yes, that's exactly what we want.
If you could get one celebrity or influencer to endorse or talk about Impact Video Group, who would it be?
David Bowie died, or Prince also. I don't know, the bigger the better. My first, kind of celebrity, famous person is that I'm going to reach out to. I started working on it now. It's our dear David Ortiz, Big Papi, the baseball player. He's Dominican as well, and feels like everyone knows everybody in the Dominican Republic, so there's like 1 degree of separation. So we're going to reach out to him. I just saw today an ad with him with La Colaborativa with the Eastern Bank. He supports all the causes. So once I get a hold of him, we'll do a little video with him and maybe he can share something. And Tom is going to freak out when that happens.
It's such a legend, right? Such a legend. So incredible. I love it.
He did a video with Gladys at La Colaborativa. And in Eastern Bank, I've done a lot with them in the past. They donate an incredible amount of money to local charities. They're a great example Rivers is the CEO of the company and a great example of a company doing a lot of good in communities. And I've been really impressed with them. I actually have my account, my Strive for Stride account with them. And, I think that's a good example of a corporation that's also trying to do good that we could potentially cover and talk about all their, how much they donate each year.
Tom wants Bono from U2. That's what we want.
I don't know how far that would necessarily, he doesn't actually have his own like Instagram or Twitter account. So I don't know if that would get it. It would just be the @U2 account. Of course, I've met the band once, and
you spent a lot of money on tickets. We heard that last time, right?
Yes, that is true. 42 times. I think that was a shocker to Georgie. He didn't know I've seen them 42 times.
I think about that every day for a little bit. Yeah.
So, how do people reach Impact Video Group?
ImpactVideoGroup.com. We're also in Instagram with Impact Video Group as well. You can reach us there, but through the website, it's the best choice. You can send us an email and we'll get back to you right away. We're very good at getting back to people right away.
You're about engagement. It's really about a movement and engagement. Yeah. Any last thing you want to add before I close out the podcast?
We just want to really thank you for having us. This was a great conversation. I hope that people can check out the website and any topics, that have to do with inequality of all the stuff that we were talking about. Just reach out to us, send us an email. We can have a conversation. Also, if you have a brand, if you have a company and you want to help out some people, anything goes a long way. We can record that happening, capture that, share it with people, share it online so people can see that other companies can be very supportive of their communities. That'd be great. Everybody wins there. When a company helps their community, everyone wins.
I just want to thank you both. Tom, it was great to see you again and interview you. It was such a wonderful opportunity. Georgie, it was amazing to meet you. It was just a wonderful conversation. Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends, give us some stars and write a review on Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts, or buy us a coffee. buymeacoffee.com/small and gutsy. I want to thank my partners in this endeavor, my co-producer, sound engineer, and composer, the amazing Pavel Franson, my exceptionally talented graphic designer, Nate Addy, my social work intern extraordinaire, Stephanie Tran. Please check out their bios on the Intrinsic website, and all the folks, friends, and family who have guided and inspired me. Our blog of these small and gutsy nonprofits and social impact organizations can be found in the organizational stories section of the Intrinsic Group website, so that we can continue to link clients, volunteers, future employees, investors, and donors to this small but mighty network. Of course, we can't take responsibility outside of our own vetting of the organizations we interview, so before you sign on to support or work for them, we encourage you to do your own due diligence and research them as well. We just want you to learn about the small and gutsy nonprofit and social impact organizational sector so they can spread their story and their impactful work. From small and gutsy to big with impact, I'm Laura Witkoff, and thanks for listening.